And so for our very first lecture, we're going to just cover the very beginning of it especially. It's chapter 1 in your text. You should definitely read the text before watching all these lectures, just so you have a starting point so that when we go through the lectures, hopefully it'll clear up some of the stuff that was more confusing. First part of this chapter basically just says, like, what is accounting and how does it fit into the grand scheme of business? And the latter part of it, we're actually getting started in the details of actually how to do accounting. But let's go ahead and just cover the overview. And I always usually like to make an analogy as to what accounting is. And basically the analogy is that if you're familiar with some kind of sport or game you like, essentially accounting is like scorekeeping for a particular sport or game, right? You have a set of rules, you know, the events that take place in that sporting event or game are dictated by this set of rules. Let's, like in baseball, let's say someone gets a hit, which is, you know, defined in the rule book, and then that gets recorded in the scorebook, and ultimately at the end of the game we summarize the score, and that dictates, you know, who won or lost that game. Essentially, accounting is the same idea but for businesses. The score in business is, of course, profits. I mean, that's the goal of the business, is to make profits. And so we have a set of rules for determining that score, for determining the profit. Accountants follow those rules, record events that take place, you know, financial events that take place to the company, record those in the accounting system, and ultimately we put out the score, which is the company's financial statements. They essentially summarize how the company performed and where they're currently at financially, financial status. So in a nutshell, accountants are just scorekeepers. They keep track of how well the company is performing. And that's what you're going to learn to do. So the very first slide kind of just reiterates what I just said. So how accounting works is you have accountants that need to identify that events, financial events have taken place that affect the company. And so we identify those things that are called transactions. So we identify that they've taken place. They give you an example here where Apple makes a sale of an iPhone. Well, obviously that's an event that took place and it has a financial consequence to Apple. And so we identify that event has taken place. We have to measure it. We have to put it into dollars and cents. And then we go about recording it in the accounting system. It'll be like the analogy of sports or something like that. If someone gets a hit in baseball, that gets recorded in the scorebook. Well, here we made a sale to a customer, that gets recorded in the accounting system. And then we're doing that all the time. We're recording tons of events in the financial statement, or in the financial accounting system. And then at the end of the period, we summarize all those into a usable format of information, which we call financial statements. And then we communicate that to interested parties, the ones that would be using that accounting information to help them make decisions. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Identify events, measure them, record them, and then summarize them in a usable format at the end of the accounting period. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to learn that this semester. So who's using the information? Well, you got basically two main parties, what are defined as external users and internal users. Oh, real quick, accounting is defined as the language of business. It is ultimately how we determine the success or lack of success for a company, all right? All companies measure their performance financially, all right? Now, businesses, specifically, they exist to make a profit. There are other organizations called non-businesses, like not-for-profits or charities. They don't exist to make a profit. They still need to measure their financial performance. So accounting as the language of business applies to all organizations. But people use that information to help them make decisions. All right, so it's the main source of information for people trying to make decisions related to organizations. But you can divide those into two parties, external users and internal users. External users, which is going to be the focus of financial accounting in this class, is providing information to people who are outside of the business. That's current or potential investors or current or potential lenders, which we call creditors, the ones that are going to lend money to the company. They're outside the business, right? They don't They don't work inside the company. The other set of users is called internal users. Those are the people that work at the company. The managers, the CEO, the marketing manager, the accounting staff, the operations people, all those people work inside the business. They need accounting information as well, but they use the accounting information for different needs. They use it to help run the business. External users are using that information to make decisions like, should we invest in the company or not? There's a whole bunch of external users besides just potential investors or lenders, but that's the focus, is on those two, the potential lenders and the potential owners. But suppliers to the company might want to know their information to determine if they want to extend credit to the company, or customers might want to know the company's financial information to see whether, if the company's going out of business, they're probably going to need to line up someone else to buy their product from. So you got these two parties, external users and internal users. In this class, we are focused on external users. So financial accounting, what we're going to go over this semester, the way we prepare the information is specifically to meet the needs of external users. Internal users, they have different information needs. So the accounting information we provide them looks different because they have different information needs. That is the focus of an entirely different class that you probably end up taking at some point, and that is managerial accounting. We are not going to focus on that this semester. That's a whole different class. We are going to focus on financial accounting, which deals with external users. All right, the next couple slides, don't worry about memorizing them. I'm not going to touch on this. It's more of an infomercial on opportunities in accounting. It's a relatively lucrative field. There's lots of opportunities to find jobs in accounting, but they kind of fall into four main categories where accounting knowledge is either vital or very useful. So you got financial accounting. That's the area where you'd be working at a company preparing their financial statements, or you'd work at an accounting firm where you audit a company's financial statements. That's where you go in and check it, basically. You could work in the federal government where you also check a company's financial statements. Publicly traded companies, ones that are companies that sell their stock on open stock exchanges, are required to file their financial statements with the Securities and Exchange Commission, which we'll talk about later. And if you work for one of the SEC or something like that, you'd be working in that aspect of accounting, financial accounting. Then you got managerial accounting. That's where where you're providing accounting information to people inside the business to help them do their jobs better and run the business better. So you'd be working at a company, and the main focus would be providing information to the managers of that company. Taxation, maybe you've heard this phrase that Benjamin Franklin said, which is there's two certainties in life, death and taxes. So taxes are a reality, especially in the state of California. We have pretty much every tax you can think of. So the taxation area is where you're helping people to prepare their tax returns, or you're working at a company and helping them file their tax returns. Individuals and companies are required to file tax returns, so you'd be working in that area. Then we have accounting related. That's where the job isn't necessarily as an accountant, but a strong understanding of accounting is kind of essential to that job. So if you work at a bank in the lending area, you're definitely going to be dealing with businesses, and you're going to need to be able to understand their financial statements in order to make lending decisions. I'm not going to go through all these, by the way. There's a lot of them, but a couple. If you work in the stock market, if you're a stock analyst or a stock trader, you're definitely going to need to analyze a company's financial statements to be able to make an informed financial investing decision. I think one that's interesting on there is FBI investigators. The reason being is that a lot of the crime that the FBI investigates is white-collar crime or financial crimes. And so having a strong background in accounting actually definitely gives you a leg up if you have an interest in pursuing a career with the FBI. There's a whole bunch of other examples that having a strong accounting background helps, and so you can look at those. As far as where the jobs are, vast majority of jobs, I don't know where they get the textbook got these statistics, by the way. I mean, they seem about reasonable in my understanding, but are they exact? I don't know. But the truth is, the vast majority of accounting jobs are in the private sector, where you actually work at a company or like a company that operates for profit. About a quarter of jobs would be working at an accounting firm that would be doing tax or audit or consulting. And then a small sliver would be working at a not-for-profit organization or a governmental agency or in education. So most of the jobs you'd end up working at a company. Maybe that's one misconception people have. If you go into accounting, you have to work in an accounting firm. In fact, only one out of 4 jobs would be in public accounting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and have a stop. I want you to go ahead and, if you want, now the way you're going to approach this, you can go ahead and do quiz question number 1 in the quiz, which is down towards the bottom of the module. Or if you want, you can just take a little break, come back and do the second part of the lecture, and then do the quiz all at the very end. It's really kind of up to you. I think it might make sense to go ahead and do quiz question number 1 because it's on the material we just covered. The later quiz or quiz questions or problems are going to deal with information we haven't gotten to yet, so I wouldn't move on to those yet. But if you want to do quiz question number 1, that might make sense to do it now. Or like I said, you can do it all at the very end if you want. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stop, and then we'll come back after you've taken a break or done that quiz question.